This game is upsetting people. Stellar Blade is a promising-looking action-adventure game that is expected to arrive on the PlayStation 5 at the end of April. A playable demo of this one has recently been made available. However, as decent as the gameplay appears to be, it is actually the game's character designs that have instead been making the headlines. In fact, the title's main protagonist's design has been causing such a stir that not only have many people on Twitter expressed disgust for the character, but the outrage has also spread as far as mainstream game journalism, with those journos ripping Eve, the main character's looks, completely apart. So with all that said, hit that subscribe button as it's time to discuss an embarrassing take being peddled by the mainstream gaming media yet again. According to PlayStation's official website, Stellar Blade will function as a title where the future of humanity hangs in the balance. In the all-new story-driven action-adventure, strange, powerful creatures have ravaged the world, leading to planet Earth being abandoned, and what is left of the decimated human race has fled to a colony in outer space. After travelling from the colony, 7th Airborne Squad member Eve arrives on the desolate remains of our planet with a clear-cut mission: to save humankind by reclaiming Earth from the Naytiba, the malevolent force that has devastated it. But as Eve tackles the Naytiba one by one, piecing together the mysteries of the past in the ruins of human civilization, she realises that her mission is far from straightforward. In fact, almost nothing is as it seems. Amidst the hype and anticipation that is building up around this exciting title stand some pretty spicy takes that will mainly revolve around the look of the game's main character, Eve. The most infamous of all of these thus far has come from a journalist named Ben Ossola, a writer from IGN's French subsidiary. It's a dated joke by now, but the old phrase, "you can't spell ignorant without IGN," certainly rings true with their article previewing Stellar Blade. Referring to the demo as an unexpected slap in the face, he would comment that the design of the game, particularly its characters, highlights an obvious bias. We're going to smash the alien, but if we can do it while pleasing these gentlemen, that's a bonus. Continuing to comment on his observation regarding Eve's appearance, he adds that she has a tight jumpsuit featuring absurd proportions, perfect heels for going to war, a ponytail so long that they have to put an option to shorten it in the settings. Nothing works. But it wasn't so much just these opinions that have rubbed many readers the wrong way, but in particular a nasty unsolicited potshot that the rude journalist chose to direct at the creator of the character, spitefully writing, "Eve from Stellar Blade is just bland, a doll sexualized by someone who has never seen a woman." Many people, including me, believe that not only is this comment unnecessary, but extremely unprofessional, and tells us far more about the game journo's toxic bias than it does about the people behind this work of art, unsurprisingly leading to a lot of disgust regarding this sentence. The truth is, though, that in the real world, beyond this writer's wild assumptions, exists a very different reality. A reality in which Stellar Blade artist Hyung Tae Kim is married to a fellow concept artist named Ji Yoon, who, as you can see from this image, is stunning. So not only has the artist behind the character seen a woman, but he sleeps in the same bed as a very attractive one each night too. As for Eve, while she is a fictional character, her body is modelled after a real-life human woman too. When speaking to Push Square, Stellar Blade's artist commented that, "We thought that her body shape would be a good reference for the character that we were pursuing, but the face was created originally in-house. It's just the body of the model that we scanned for the game." The whole situation, if I'm being really honest, just screams stereotypical male feminist. Someone who is completely wrapped up in their warped ideology and a skewed worldview, authoring an article applying his radical leftist Western ideologies onto a Korean game. A game, I might add, is being produced by people from a completely different culture with completely different beauty standards and completely different values. Just to be clear, I'm not even one of those creators who have built their business and image around criticising strange takes put out there by partisan lunatics. I'm pretty non-partisan, and as a female creator I very regularly experience racism and sexism myself, but journos behaving like this, along with the mainstream entertainment medium who are empowering them and giving them their platforms, are the very people driving all the division and dissonance in Western society at present. The irony is, trying his utmost to put himself over as a caring and diligent individual, he doesn't appear to be able to make his point without attacking other people with completely unfounded claims. Delusions, in fact. The journo's displayed ignorance makes him come across as both somewhat racist and misogynistic as a result. This serves as a typical example of far-left bollocks, where someone is so desperate to appear virtuous and holier than thou that they have actually ended up going full circle and become the very thing they decry. This is what happens when you spend your whole life performing mental gymnastics. You end up falling flat on your face and looking insincere. In the West, I feel like we're going through this thing at the moment where everything has to be altered to suit certain agendas. So the uglification of traditionally good-looking characters is rife throughout American and Western media as a whole. Sorry, let me rephrase that. The very specific uglification of women, as from my point of view, the male characters, and I'm not complaining here, are becoming increasingly objectified. I don't see any of these very same journos complaining about the sexualization of Zangief, for example. I feel like this is a massive double standard and exhibits the very biases they claim to be fighting. Like, I shouldn't be looking at Zangief and thinking, oh, but here we are. With regards to the de-beautification of female characters, many continue to deny that this is actually even something that is happening at the moment, despite there being consultancy firms out there like Sweet Baby Inc. at present, who have made a full-time business from developing narratives with the so-called intention to diversify and enrich the video game landscape, an industry where traditional beauty is not only increasingly becoming less welcomed by some, but completely vilified and referred to as misogyny. Beautiful women exist, and not only are males naturally drawn towards looking at beautiful women, but females are just as likely to be more drawn to an attractive looking female on television than an ugly one. This isn't rocket science, it's in our very basic human biology for our eyes to be drawn towards pretty things. Take the slithering of mainstream content that has remained consistently popular with women throughout recent decades. Shows like Love Island and Keeping Up with the Kardashians have been consistent draws with majority female demographics. So if anything, if you want to make games that appeal to the mainstream female, they should consider making games that stylistically look like those shows, rather than filling them up with characters who would look more suited on an Extinction Rebellion march. What the journos are actually asking for when they demand better female representation in games is more games that will appeal to the fringe and more alternative women in society who already play video games anyway. That's not capturing a new market, that's pandering to identity politics. From a personal perspective, it ever increasingly feels like anyone who has any power over the arts and culture in this portion of the world seems to be leaning further and further towards trying to sanitize everything to fit their false utopian vision. It feels like they're trying to destroy everything that is proven to work so it can be torn down and then narcissistically rebuilt in their images, as though they want everything considered beautiful to be recategorized as unacceptable and ugly, and conversely, flip everything on its head so they can instead be considered the new beauty standard. They try to improve their self-esteem by attacking other people rather than working on themselves. This is infecting every corner of our entertainment and fashion industry. For example, it is now much harder for me than it used to be to buy something as simple as a pencil skirt, because most of the clothes I find on the modern high street look androgynous. I'm talking about the women's section. Lots of unflattering, oversized, box-shaped t-shirts, baggy jeans, essentially the wardrobe of Billie Eilish. Further from this, as another example of this level of ideology being pushed by people from the arts, looking for problems where there are none to score virtue points, a close friend of mine works in television, and not only has everyone in the industry been sent on so-called bias awareness training courses, but TV shows are now scrutinized to such a degree that this friend of mine was told by his editor to remove the phrase "dark horse" from a reality show script. as the person being referred to as the dark horse in the contest was black, and they were worried the viewer might find such phrasing offensive. I mean, really? How on earth is that even a thing? Well, apparently the viewing public is seen as that stupid by the powers that be, who are actively looking for misery where there isn't any. These are the people in charge of running bog standard British daytime television, in my opinion, to have even connected the term dark horse with someone's skin tone comes across in its own way as racist to have even made such a leap in the first place. Or is it simply a case of the mainstream media personnel having such incredible paranoia due to the current climate and fringe radical movements that we're surrounded by, that we're at a point where even moderate individuals are making preposterous comments to ensure their jobs are protected against lunatics with Twitter accounts? These people have completely lost their marbles. They are a sandwich short of a picnic or a shed with no tools, and they are controlling every corner of our arts, fashion and entertainment worlds. Now, as you can see, they want to push their radical Western ideas onto other cultures such as the Korean and the Japanese worlds of gaming. Japan and Korea, although both have close ties to the West, still have very different cultures intact, and it seems very ignorant to want to consume media from that part of the world but expect them to completely pander to whiny, entitled Western sensibilities. What makes this all the worse is the truth is they're the only people peddling these bizarre views, such as finding Stellar Blade offensive and misogynistic, are a very tiny but very loud minority. However, unfortunately, this tiny loud minority happens to hold a lot of roles within the field of game journalism and within other areas of the arts. Essentially, creative fields attract a certain subsection of society, thus meaning Western entertainment media is currently being portrayed with this very specific set of standards being applied to it. One of the key buzzwords that I see these people love to throw around is representation. So what are they actually calling for? The representation in Korean games to be altered for the needs of sensitive Westerners? Speaking of representation, I am from the minority of females who were big into gaming during the 90s. As a child, I was a mega fan of Tomb Raider. I was absolutely mad about Lara Croft. I adored her. She was beautiful, she was smart, cool, strong and brave. I loved everything about her. Here's what is ridiculous though, I never recall once wishing that she looked more like me. I just thought she was brilliant. Nor at any point when watching Dragon Ball Z did I ever wish that I looked more like Goku either. Or Piccolo, for that matter. I appreciate the characters, the story and the setting, and it never really crossed my mind that I wished that fictional video game characters instead looked like me. Video games were always, and still are, fantasy to me. Why would I want to be self-inserted into that fantasy when, for example, I could play as the much more beautiful, triangular, boobalicious Lara Croft? Being a female with light brown skin, I am technically, according to the fringe left, a woman of colour, a label that has been affixed to me whether I like it or not. A label which, for some strange reason, apparently gives me victim points and clout. Prime example, when I first opened this channel, it was only a matter of weeks before YouTube chose to showcase me on YouTube Gaming. I got an opportunity, probably based on my gender and race combination, in a heavily male space. Back on topic, I don't feel like I need game journalists to continue to screech from the rooftops, begging for so-called more accurate representation while virtuously denouncing all tradition and what we know works. I just want great video games with fantastic gameplay and interesting stories, and we should not expect the entirety of East Asia to change the entertainment they deliver just to appease the loud minority of Westerners. In my opinion, if these people are right about anything, it's that game journalism and entertainment in general is in need of more diversity. However, this doesn't relate to race, gender or beauty standards, but instead more diversity in thought, as it feels like the companies are only hiring people who have the same partisan beliefs as they do. By the way, I'm sorry to those of you who expect content from me to be a little bit more on the whimsical side. The Stellar Blade article caught my attention, and the total erasure of beautiful female characters in media needs to stop now. Let's be honest, the world is an ugly enough place as it is. We don't need it gaining another £50 and dyeing its hair green. Anyway, if you want some content on the more traditional side from me, check out my coverage on the mysterious PlayStation 2 from 1993. Or if you want to support my channel in a more personal way, please consider backing me on Patreon.